Thank you very much, Tony. Tony Hilton put his finger on a couple of things that actually recurred in all the consultations we had with all the stakeholders so far, and we'll continue to have until Paul Horan leaves tomorrow. The issue of trust, that this was repeated over and over, that Jamaica, there's a serious problem of lack of interpersonal trust and a cynicism about the process, and finding ways to address that, to give all participants, and he put his finger on the second point which recurred, is constituencies. For something like this to work, what all these stakeholders have been saying to us is there has to be a sense that everybody is benefiting, that it's not asking one group to make sacrifices for another group. And that lack of trust in the past is sometimes seen as being, as weakening, not necessarily undermining, but weakening efforts at partnership. So I'm going to now ask the Minister who has been given responsibility for this initiative, the Honourable Dwight Nelson, to bring remarks from the government.
Thank you very much, John. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all thank Tony Hilton for the remarks he just made. I think the observations save and accept that reference to the government in opposition are well taken. I want to thank CaPRI for its initiative in having this forum and in having Paul Horan here to, in a sense, lead the discussions in respect of social partnership. I had the pleasure of sitting with him, with the Prime Minister and John and the other representatives of CaPRI. And I must confess that I was impressed by the depth of his experience, his expertise, and the manner in which he articulated the Irish experience. I was even more impressed by the fact that he stated quite clearly that his objective is not to place prescriptions on the table, but rather to expose us to his experience, to the Irish experience, to the traps and pitfalls, and to make suggestions and guidance as to how we proceed. I was impressed with this because despite the fact that as a people we suffer from a kind of xenophobia, where everything foreign is good and everything local is bad, I think too often in the past, in order to solve our problems, we have been faced with prescriptions which simply lift a foreign experience, and it is placed in the Jamaican context and hope that it works, and this has never worked. I say this because it represents my own personal feeling, and even though I've been advised never to speak without a script as a minister, I think having said that, I would not find myself in any problems or trouble, having said that. Ladies and gentlemen, in these challenging times, all across the globe, there are many countries which now find themselves in a situation where they need new strategies to help to drive growth and development and to improve the confidence that their citizens have in the ability of their leaders to guide them into the future. This is why in the 21st century, the concept of social dialogue has come to hold favor as an important platform for the pursuance of social and economic reconstruction. Social dialogue provides a formal, structured forum in which the concerns of the state the concerns of capital, and the concerns of labor, often referred to as a tripartite, are buttressed by the input of other members and groups of civil society for the development and betterment of a nation. And this structure allows these concerns to be expressed. Historically, social dialogue has helped to open the channels of communication among all these groups and other concerned parties. The basic and fundamental concept of social dialogue is about different stakeholders coming together and using dialogue to promote social and economic growth. The need for the state, private sector, trade unions, and civil society to engage in meaningful dialogue for improving the economic and social environment is very well appreciated today. Tony alluded to the whole concept of trust. And oftentimes in many countries, we find that mistrust and misunderstanding between and among the social partners and civil society needlessly hamper critical reform efforts. Trust in Jamaica, I think, among the social partners does not simply reside in mistrust in the process. I think it is far deeper than that, and it resides in mistrust for each other. We saw this in Jamaica in the mid-90s, when the mistrust between the private sector and the trade unions was so thick that an attempt at formulating a social contract among the tripartite had to be abandoned, simply because the trade unions did not trust the private sector enough to enter into a social pact with them. And I think this is a historical situation which we need to address down the road, because, as I said, it has hampered and to a large extent continues to hamper meaningful dialogue. Of course, social dialogue is not a new concept. In some countries, it has been a feature of public life for decades. Recent years, however, we have seen an upsurge in interest in this dialogue as a means of promoting economic growth and development. This kind of exchange comes in many forms. It can be structured or ad hoc, formal or informal, wide-ranging or focused on specific issues. It can be initiated by forward-thinking governments, business owners, employers, union leaders, and members of civil society, deciding that the problems are now at such a level that the situation is unsustainable, or even third parties, such as international donor agencies, have weighed in on this issue. It can take place at local, national, or international levels, and can be organized by industry sector, cluster, or value chain. It can cover cross-cutting economic issues.